So how do you safeguard yourself from a big dip like that? Well, will Bitcoin hold the $105,000 as a support in the next 36 hours? Yes or no? That's the big question, because tomorrow there's an important meeting, an important press conference from the United States where the monetary policy for the upcoming period will be outlaid to us. And with that, the question, of course, is, are they going to lower the interest rates? I don't think so. Let's take a look at some of the important indicators to see whether or not we have a big chance for a price drop tomorrow for Bitcoin or a price increase. So a couple of facts. We know for a fact that inflation in the United States is low. It was 2.4% last month compared to a year ago. So that means May 2025 compared to May 2024, which was pretty decent, but the month before that it was 2.3%. So the increase was 0.1% and not a further decrease. The purple line here, what you can see is the inflation rate, which is declining, and the blue line is the interest rate. Still incredible high. When tomorrow they do not lower the interest rate, the longer it stays at a high level, of course, the tougher it gets for the economy. The unemployment in the United States is 4.2% still, which is stable, but higher than a while ago. The question is what's going to happen when the negotiations surrounding the tariffs are coming to a close. The 8th of July is a crucial date, and the 31st of July is a crucial date, where in the United States it will be known whether or not Trump can continue with the tariffs that he wants to implement. So a lot of things can shift in the next couple of weeks, 6-7 weeks ahead of us. A lot of things can happen. The big question so far for tomorrow is what's going to happen with the Bitcoin price. How is crypto going to react? In my opinion, if you take a look at the chart, and if you take a look at the weekly chart for Bitcoin, you can see obviously that a couple of weeks ago there was the highest weekly close on Monday, 19th of May 25. And since then, Bitcoin did close above $105,000, which is of course super. But looking at the types of candles that you see here, it's not very convincing yet, right? So it's very possible that we can either bounce back to the 110, or this is going to be a fake out. And Bitcoin is going to drop, of course, obviously back to $100,000. And depending on tomorrow, that's why tomorrow is so important. It's not just the decision whether or not the interest rates are going to drop, it's why they make the decision. And my expectation is that the big uncertainty surrounding the tariffs and surrounding the One Big Beautiful Bill Act from the Trump administration will probably empower the central banks to not lower interest rates, not in June, not in July, and that they are going to wait for the outcome of the whole tariff discussion. We've been in a bull run for Bitcoin for a while now, as you can see. We started at the end of 2022 when the uptrend for Bitcoin started, right? It's easy 4x, 5x, depending on where you bought Bitcoin. In my opinion, because there is also a lot of uncertainty in the world, and we all know people that are in crypto longer, myself since 2020, so I've been around in crypto for one whole bull run, one whole bear market, and now again the second bull run, and in the near future I expect a second bear market. So what can you do? Obviously, when you look back at 2021, when there was a double top, you could have hoped, oh, well, maybe it's going to be a dip and we're going to go higher. Didn't happen. There is a lot of purchasing of Bitcoin going on by institutions, by businesses. Yes, that's all true, and they will not sell the Bitcoin most probably short term. So the dip to the downside might be smaller in previous bear markets, but there is still a potential for a big dip for Bitcoin. So how do you safeguard yourself from a big dip like that? Well, what you could do, what you could consider, is working with a stop loss limit order. I think it's important to understand the concept of a stop loss limit order. It simply means that, for instance, you can sell your Bitcoin now for market price based on the liquidity on the exchange that you trade your Bitcoin. When you sell it now, for instance, in dollars, the price is $105,179. So let's say you can get exactly that price. That means that you will sell a Bitcoin for $105,179. You will pay your transaction fees. Let's say that it's 0.25%. So maybe like $250, for instance. That means you get a little bit less than $105,000 for one Bitcoin. That's a market order. The second thing you could consider is, well, I don't want to sell today because my expectation is that the price is going higher. When you want to make sure that you take profit on a level that you want to take your profit, for instance, you think, well, I think Bitcoin is first going back to $110,000 before it retraces all the way back to 100,000. Let's say that you want to take profit because you've been idle in your Bitcoin for a couple of years already and you want to take profit at 110. Then you can set a limit order in your exchange. And if it's a more basic exchange where you're trading, find out on the browser if there's a more advanced way of trading. And obviously the larger exchanges globally, obviously Bitvavo, but also Bybit, you can just place a limit sell order at $110,000. You say, well, I want to sell one Bitcoin when it hits $110,000. And then you can just go to sleep at night and you wake up, and when the price hits $110,000, your Bitcoin is sold, right? So you take your profit. And because you're not selling it or buying it against a market order, you also pay a little lower fee, right? It's not 0.25%, for instance, but 0.15 or 0.1% even. So you save some money on that side as well. What's another option? And that's an interesting one to discuss. And that is the stop loss limit order. That is not selling for the current price. It's not selling at a higher price. It's selling at a lower price. It's like ensuring yourself you get a minimum amount of money for your sell order. So when things go sideways and the price is going to drop, you are going to sell your position for a certain amount that has been defined and determined in your stop loss limit order. Here you can see an example in this chart, this orange line here at $104,540. So in this example, when you put a stop loss limit order at this price, it will activate a limit order, a limit sell order when a price triggers a certain level. For this instance, the stop loss is at $104,540. This means when this price is reached, a limit order will be activated and put into the order book, and your Bitcoin will be sold for the amount that you defined. For instance, $104,300 at a minimum. That way, when you are in an uptrend and you want to safeguard your earnings, your profit, this is a very good way to make sure that you get a certain amount for your position. So that's a very good thing to consider in the uncertainties ahead of us. I've said it a lot of times before. There are still a lot of bullish macroeconomic things going on when the price of Bitcoin could easily go higher than $110,000. But there are also uncertainties in the next 6 weeks. When the tariffs of Trump will not go the way that the US administration wants it to go, we could definitely, for a shorter term, go to the downside, right? Bitcoin can easily go back to $93,000. I can see that happening. The bigger question is what's going to happen with the one big beautiful bill act from the Trump administration. They wanted to go through early July. What's going to happen if that's going to bounce, or that the tariffs is not going the way they wanted? And what's the impact of the one big beautiful bill act of the Trump administration? Because there's going to be a lot of deficit added to the United States. But on the other hand, you need earnings. But when the earnings fall short, then how are you going to solve this? And that could potentially lead to a larger correction, or potentially even the end of the bull market. That's the way I look at it. So that's why the next 6 weeks are so crucial. And if you want to make sure that you don't fall, like for instance, let's say a correction of 20% is coming and Bitcoin is going back to 80,000 even, you can say, well, are you willing to accept the drop of 20%? It's not a disgrace if you do. I've been there multiple times. 20% drops for Bitcoin. We've seen it. We've seen it all the way from the bottom of 15,000, right? We've seen it here. There was a drop of 30% even, 33%. You can just ride the dip, buy the dip, whatever. And again, here, very recent, this was also a dip of 31%. So are you riding this dip of 20-30% again, or are you safeguarding yourself with a stop loss limit order? It's something you should definitely investigate and think about for yourself, how you are going to manage your portfolio in uncertain times, especially in crypto, when things are going to go sideways, and we don't know that now for sure, but there is a risk. So how do you protect your positions? That's I think interesting to think about. On the other side, when tomorrow the briefing of the central banks in the United States is going to be positive, they say, well, no, we're not going to lower the interest rates, but looking at economic activity, the GDP is we are still growing net, and we expect a higher net growth of GDP. We see the unemployment rate stabilizing further, maybe even lowering in the next couple of months. And we see inflation stabilizing. We have confidence in the tariffs, and therefore we expect to lower interest rates in August or September, for instance. When that's going to be the tone of voice tomorrow, we're going to see a increase of the price of Bitcoin. But in most other scenarios, I would expect a dip tomorrow. And potentially it's already happening to the price now. That's why this drop is already 5%. In the past 2 weeks since this top, already 5% in the low, and this week alone is almost 4% to the downside. So I think the market's already pricing in there's not going to be a lower interest rate tomorrow. Let's see what's going to happen. Let me know in the comments down below how you would act, and if you've ever considered a stop loss limit order. Because usually in the early side of the bull run, I don't use these orders. I don't use a stop loss limit order when the price of Bitcoin is $30,000, because the upwards potential is so much higher. So these fluctuations of minus 30%, I don't really care, because it's still an opportunity to further expand your position. But the later we are in the bull market, and October statistically is the end of the fourth bull market, that means that the closer you get to this date, the risk profile increases, and therefore a stop loss limit order is something that could definitely have a lot of value. Because looking back at the cycle in 2020-21, using these stop loss limit orders could have made me more money looking back in the previous bear market, right? So in this bull market, I already took a couple of times of profit. And again, when this order is triggered, for instance, then you know that you took profit at a good level. And when the price drops 10, 20, 30%, you can reconsider like, am I going to reinvest the capital to get Bitcoin at a lower price and then ride the way back up again and then take another time profit, right? That's an option. Or you can say, well, I don't really care, because my expectation is I want to buy and hold Bitcoin for 10 years, no matter what's going to happen in the meantime. Then, I think you would sleep like a baby when that's your strategy, because you just don't care and you just keep stacking. It's definitely a strategy. But in my opinion, and that's the way I take a look at this market, it's still so very young. And therefore, my expectation is that it's still very possible that there will be another bear market and another big opportunity to upskill your Bitcoin position to make even more profits in the next cycle in 2028. So that's my take on the current situation. Tomorrow, a big moment. I will communicate it, and I'll cover it in a video as well. So thank you for watching. If you like the content, please leave a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next video.